Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. A Heart of Ice and Ash. Episode 12. Chapter 120. Winter POV. I can't believe that I have my wolf back again. It's like hearing a lost best friend come back to me. Not only that, but the incredible thirst and desperation for blood has abated. Like it was never really there. Sabriel is just as excited to be back. Man, have I missed you, Winter. It was like being stuck in a dankly old, black cave by myself. It was no fun at all and I couldn't get through to you. I had to talk to myself and it was so boring. I missed you, Sabriel, so much. That other voice was horrible, kept telling me to do all sorts of horrible things to Kai and my friends. Well, it might be gone, but you still have the vampire half to contend with. You're going to need to feed, but it will be every few days or once a week now, versus every day. I don't want to be part vampire. I know, sweet girl, but we have to make the best of a bad situation. Besides, we look good as a pale chick. Totally rocking the goth scene. I dare you to challenge Langdon to an arm wrestle. You can totally beat him. I'll consider it. Or Damien even. He could stand to be taken down a peg or two. Have his sister kick him. I blink my eyes and give Kai a watery smile as he embraces me hard. I can smell your scent and it's almost normal again, he murmurs to me. I crinkle my nose at that. I hadn't realized my scent had changed. I can smell his scent though, and it's intoxicating. Do you feel the need to drink blood? Asks Kai tentatively, and I shake my head. In fact, my stomach is rumbling for normal food. Actually, I think I could use some food from the kitchen, I say shyly, rubbing my stomach with one hand and feeling sheepish. Kai gives a loud laugh. I can hear your stomach grumbling from here. Let's go, he suggests, taking hold of my hand and gently tugging me forward. I glance down at myself and blush, Kai doing the same. I hastily get dressed, leaving Langdon and Damien in the room as we head out to the kitchen. What would you like to eat? He asks, digging around. Do we have any donuts? I ask hopefully, and he wrinkles his nose, looking quite disgusted, fetching some out of the pantry. Juice too, I request, and disgruntled he brings me a glass with the container of donuts. I inhale the smell of them, the sweet smell of chocolate and the musky scent of the sprinkles as I take one in my hand and examine it eagerly. World's worst breakfast, grumbles Kai, munching away on a piece of toast. I ignore him. I take a bite and moan loudly as the taste of the donut explodes in my mouth. It's delicious, sweet, seductive. I can't get enough of it and it's staying down and not coming back up. A huge bonus for me. It's delicious, I mumble around the food in my mouth. Kai just shakes his head at me. He has no idea what he's missing. Donuts are a staple breakfast food. Langdon and Damien come sauntering in, Damien's eyes widening as he sees me eating with Kai. You seem to be feeling better, he mutters, sitting across from me. I push the container of donuts towards him and he grabs one, biting into it messily. Langdon scowls and grabs himself some cereal. Clearly he's of the same mind as Kai. Whatever. Damien's enjoying the food. I give him a wide smile. Well, now Sabriel, my wolf is back and I can eat normal food. What's not to enjoy, I say lightly as Damien gives a small chuckle. Don't get angry at Kai either. I warn him I was the one who asked for him to mark me and he wasn't sure about doing it. Damien just grunts and polishes off his donut, reaching for another. I'm glad to see you are feeling better, Langdon says to me quietly, between bites of his cereal. Kai sips slowly at his coffee, closing his eyes in bliss. I guess it is early this morning and he'd spent the night helping to take care of me. The poor guy must be absolutely exhausted. Maybe I should have suggested bed first. Too late now. Thank you, Langdon, I answer. Damien's fidgeting with his hands now and looking at me uncertainly. What's going on? Surely he's not afraid of me? I've never once attempted to do anything, even when being taken over by my vampire half. Or is he wanting to ask me something and can't bring himself to? Finally, I can't take the sidelong glances and biting of his lip anymore. Whatever it is, Damien, can you just spit it out? I explode. You look like you have something to say, so just say it. Fine, he shoots back. I think it was sheer stupidity for Kai to mark you. How did he know it wouldn't kill you? He exclaims, throwing his hands up, exasperated. I narrow my eyes. It's almost like he wants to pick a fight. This isn't about Kai marking me, I have no doubts it's about something else. I already told you that I was the one who begged Kai to do it, and as you can see I'm alive and well, I say evenly as Kai grips the table in his anger. I begin to tap my fingers on the tabletop. Langdon is silent, pushing his bowl away from him and resting his head on his hands as he stares at the whole lot of us. I tense. That boy is acting like he's got a stick up him, one that needs pulling out ASAP. You're not wrong. I just wish he'd spit out the problem already. Well, you know you can make him. You don't have to sit and take his criticisms anymore, girl. What do you propose I do? Bite him. Bite him good. Trust you to come up with that, Sabriel. Well, I was hardly going to tell you to kiss him. Damien, just talk to me, I say tiredly. I had one hell of a night and I'm too tired to yell at you. Why don't you just say what's really on your mind? He looks at me with sadness on his face. Did our father really say that our mother was still alive? He asks slowly. Could he have been lying? Trying to psych you out maybe? That could be a possibility, I acknowledge to myself. But something in father's voice had rung true when he told me. The way his voice had been dripping with malice when he spoke about her, the repulsive look on his face. Father told me she was alive and that she was seeing someone else. I say quietly, I don't think he was lying, Damien. What would have been the point? It was more like a deathbed confession. He knew he was going to die and he wanted to hit me where it hurt the most. It had hurt. Knowing I was tortured all this time and she hadn't even been killed by rogues as he'd told me. The fact he was punishing me in place of her. It gave me nightmares and it caused my heart to hurt. Damien stared at the table. All these years, he mutters, all these years, and he was lying to me about mother and being killed by rogues. That it was your fault. I tortured you, he said thickly, glancing up at me, and our mother wasn't even dead. I hurt you for nothing, you did nothing to deserve it. He slams a hand down on the table. Damien, I don't blame you. Father took pleasure in making us do his bidding. He's gone now. He can't hurt us anymore. Exactly right, growled Kai, while Langdon reached over and silently gripped my brother's hand. Blaming yourself is only going to cause you pain, I continue heatedly. Don't let father win. Don't let him cause you any more regrets or pain. I stare Damien in the eyes. You need to move on from father's influence. I reach over and grasp my brother's hand. All we can do is look to the future and leave the past behind. We can learn from it. He holds onto mine tightly. But Winter, if our mother is still alive, he chokes out, then what do we do? I look at Kai, who's listening intently, his arms folded over his burly chest, a grim expression on his face. Something tells me he already knows what I'm about to say. I want to find her, I tell Damien quietly, my eyes staring directly into his. I want to find her and get some answers. Like why she left and why she didn't take her with us. We don't even know where to start, Damien points out, his eyes seeking Langdon's. Then we go from pack to pack, I say with determination. She has to be somewhere in this country, right? I can't see her upending everything and disappearing to another one. It doesn't seem like father cared enough to go searching for her either. For all we know, she could be like 2 packs away, I say excitedly. Damien looks less enthused. Or she could be 10 packs away, he grimaces. I don't think I want to go to every single pack in the country, Winter, it just seems like a lot. How else are we going to find her? I burst out, frustrated. Kai clears his throat. I don't think you need to go from pack to pack. It's too much traveling. What we can do is ring other packs and give a general description of your mother along with her name and see if it rings a bell with anyone. My eyes are shining at him. You would do that? I ask him softly. He gives a nod. Of course. But are you really sure you want to find this woman? She abandoned the both of you and left you in your father's hands. I'm sure, I tell him firmly. Then it's done, he says with a light shrug. What is your mother's name anyway? Asks Kai. Maybe we could start from there. I start and then flounder. I can't remember, I was so young when she left. Elena supplies Damien. I wouldn't bother with the last name, she's probably changed it. That's what I think as well. Does she look like Winter? Asks Kai. Damien looks at me and a small smile comes over his face. The spitting image, he says with a chuckle. Only mother is older, of course. It shouldn't be too hard to throw out a description then, Kai says calmly. I'll go and start making phone calls now. But I'm not going to promise anything, he warns, so don't get your hopes up too much. Nothing might come of it. I just want you to be prepared. Damien and I nod furtively. Kai gives me a kiss on the forehead and then vanishes down the corridor that leads to the study. I watch him go wistfully. Maybe I'll go and join him in a minute. What if we find her? Damien is saying, and I blink my eyes and try to refocus on what it is he's actually saying. What if we find her? Then we ask the questions we need to, I tell Damien quietly. My mind is whirling around with possibilities. Part of me though is fearful that she might have died in the meantime. If that was the case, we might never get the answers to the questions on our lips. Damien looks excited at the prospect of finding her, but I'm not. Because I don't think there's any good reasons for abandoning your children like she's done. My canines pop out of my mouth and my eyes begin to glow red. A small part of me, the hurt little girl inside, wants to kill her for what she's done. Kai POV, I can hear the desperation in Winter's voice when she speaks about finding her mother. I guess it's normal to want answers when you find out that the person you trusted most in the world is still alive and never came back for you. But she's going to get hurt in the process, I just know it. Even though I'll be with her every step of the way, I can't take the pain away from her or stop her from hearing the truth. All I can do is be there for her, even though all of my being wants to protect her and her brother Damien from the god-awful truth. Langdon seeks me out, shutting the door. What do you think? He asks softly. I raise an eyebrow at him. I think that the both of them are only going to get hurt. But who are we to stop them finding out the truth? I know Langdon says heavily Damien's going to be in for a shock when we find the woman. But I can't refuse not to help him either. I give him a tight smile. We both want to protect our mates and shield them from anything that could harm them. Was that really so bad? If it were me, I'd want to know the truth. I exhale, so I can't blame Winter for wanting to find out what happened either. The phone rings. I hastily grab the receiver and put it to my ear. Alpha Kai speaking, I bark out. For a moment there's silence and I wonder if it's a wrong number. Then I hear his voice of all things, making me clutch the receiver tightly in the grip of my hand. Alpha Kai, it's Alpha Jonathan, comes his smooth unwavering voice. I frown. What is he doing, calling my number? What can I do for you, Alpha Jonathan? I say politely, glaring at the telephone. Damn kid! What's he want now? You told me to phone you if I should need assistance, he says grimly. Great! I had told him that. Still, I would have thought it would have taken him a lot longer to have the guts to phone me. What kind of assistance do you need? I ask suspiciously. My pack is currently being attacked constantly by rogues. We've managed to hold them off, but they're becoming braver and we could really use a hand in wiping them out. I consider it. I couldn't tell him no, not when I had promised to provide assistance. He sounded like he genuinely needed it. Plus, I realize, if I leave for his pack, then phone calls to other packs about Winter's mother would have to wait until I got back. We can be there in a few hours, I growl. Give us your location. Inform your men to expect us as well. I slam the phone down once I've been given all the information. I swear, running a hand through my hair. This was the last thing I needed to deal with. I take it I'm coming as well, asked Langdon. I shake my head. No, I need you to keep the pack running smoothly. I'll take a few men and leave. You can explain to Winter. I trail off as the door to the study bursts open. Tell Winter what? Comes her voice, her eyes staring hard at me as I swallow nervously. Jonathan called. He's having trouble with rogues at his pack and I told him I would assist. I begin. Her eyes narrow. Damien stands behind her, looking apprehensive. You figured I would stay here, she almost snarls, while you go and help. I give a huff. Be reasonable, Winter. I am being reasonable, she snaps. I'm a hybrid, remember, I can help. Not to mention that Jonathan risked his life to save me from Thomas. I owe him, Kai, we all do. I'm not staying behind on this one. I won't. She says firmly. I look at Damien, who gives a nod. He won't stay behind either. Langdon is frowning. He doesn't want his mate to go without him. I swear under my breath. Fine, I mutter, we'll all go. Langdon let Jeff know so he can take over the running of the pack. I really need to give him the Gamma title officially, I muse before glaring at Winter. If you come, you follow all of my instructions, is that clear? I demand no going off on your own, no trying to take on several rogues at once. You listen to me and Langdon, I say heatedly. I can do that, she promises. I grimace and plunk down on my seat, rubbing my eyes. This was going to be a very long trip, I could tell. Go and pack, I tell them with a sigh. Meet me back here in 30 minutes. They both take off like a shot. Are you sure this is wise? Asks Langdon. I glower at him. Did it look like I had a choice? At least if she's with me, I know she's safe. He nods thoughtfully at that and stands up. Guess I better go pack, he mutters. You should as well. I just chuckle and get up, heading upstairs to the bedroom where Winter has clothes strewn everywhere. I grab a backpack out of the closet and hand it to her, grabbing another one for myself. I just can't pick, she mutters as I stare at her incredulous. We're not going to a fashion parade, for heaven's sake. Just pack some comfortable clothes, we won't be there long, I snarl. I'm packed within 5 minutes, watching Winter as she debates over every item of clothing she has. Is this what all women are like when it comes to packing? It's nerve-wracking watching her. I pull out my phone. You have 5 minutes, I tell her tersely as she blinks at me panicked, otherwise we're going to miss our flight. It's almost amusing to watch her begin to slam random things into the backpack. I grab hold of it and walk downstairs, Langdon and Damien waiting patiently in the study. I bet Damien hardly took any time at all to pack, I think a little grumpily. We'll all go in the one car, I say evenly, seeming as we need to take a small flight. We'll rent a car when we get to the other side. Is everyone ready to go? I ask, staring at Winter pointedly, who to her credit, merely blinks at me all innocent-like. Yes, everyone chimes in. We decide to take my SUV. Winter gets in the front with me, Langdon in the back with Damien. I glance at them in the rearview mirror and shake my head. The two lovebirds are holding hands already and whispering things in each other's ears. Winter fidgets with the radio as I pull out and head towards the main road. It will be nice to see Jonathan again, Winter says excitedly, a wide smile on her face. Nice for her, I think sourly. I could have happily lived my life without seeing the teenager again. I wonder how he's doing, she adds. He seemed so sad the last time I saw him. That was because he left while she had lost her memories, I think bitterly. I wasn't naive. Jonathan still had feelings for Winter, even though he tried hard to hide it. The flight seems to take forever. I hate confined spaces. It makes me feel claustrophobic. Even sitting by the window I curse the fact that I can't spread my legs out. Winter, on the other hand, is so petite that her legs spread out with plenty of room still. How long do you think we'll stay at Jonathan's pack for? She asks, turning to me, those pale pink lips of hers spread in a smile. A few days, maybe a week, I answer grumpily. I glance over my shoulder to see Langdon is asleep with Damien's head on his shoulder. I gape. How is he able to sleep in such tight quarters and uncomfortable chairs? It's not normal. Damien is awake but barely, his eyelids fluttering. I glance back at Winter and she's wide awake and chattering a mile a minute. Slowly I drape an arm over her, pulling her across to snuggle with me. She nestles her head against my chest and I almost purr in contentment. She's gone quiet now and it's more relaxing. I can feel my whole body relaxing as well, closing my eyes, only to bolt upright again as the plane descends. Well, that was fun, chirped Winter, tugging me out of the plane while I scowl at everybody. Langdon and Damien follow behind me, both with small smiles on their faces. Langdon, Damien, let's go, I bark, storming towards the car rental place and quickly securing another SUV. I drum my fingers along the steering wheel. I'm regretting this already, and I haven't even made it to Jonathan's pack. Kai, Winter says in a small voice. I don't mean to make you upset, she says, fidgeting with both hands as she climbs into the passenger seat. I grab hold of her chin with one hand, gripping it tightly, and then lean forward, mashing my lips against hers. I'm rough, possessive, my tongue delving into her mouth and caressing hers. I want her to know that she's mine. She moans, her hands coming up behind my head. Aware of the passengers now coming into the back seat, I slowly, reluctantly, pull back, looking into her eyes. Just remember that you're mine, I purr, and she nods, a smile on her swollen lips. Langdon and Damien remain silent, aware of what just happened. I turn the key in the ignition. I pull out and glance out the window. The scenery is nice, the town's quite small. Winter is staring wide-eyed at everything, but Damien refuses to look out the window, instead staring down at the ground and closing his eyes. What's up with that? Soon the scenery changes. It's more woodsy, less town-like. We pull up to a back road and begin to drive through the woods, careful to keep a close eye out for approaching shifters. Although, if Jonathan's done his job right, they would know to expect us, as it has in fact only been a few hours since this morning. I can see what has to be a pack house in the distance, forced to stop when several shifters leap in front of the car, growling, snarling, with their ears tucked back. Jonathan, I curse as Winter slinks back in her chair. You had one job. One job. Stay here, I tell Winter grumpily, opening the door and getting out of the car awkwardly. The wolves snap their jaws at me. They must have mind-linked their alpha, thankfully though. Because 2 minutes later Jonathan comes jogging up, looking extremely apologetic. Sorry, he says, breathing heavily. I told them to expect you. You're able to go on your way now, he says, with a distinctively unhappy look at the wolves. Can one of them drive? I ask, throwing him the key. He motions towards one of the wolves, who shifts. Winter, Langdon, and Damien hop out of the car. Drive this to the pack house, Jonathan says to the wolf, handing the young lad the key. He nods and gets in, driving away as we watch. We begin to walk towards the pack house, a huge mansion but cabin style to blend with the forest. I keep a wary eye out and keep my ears pricked for the sounds of any approaching rogues. Luckily I don't smell one nearby. Jonathan looks on edge, glancing every which way. He doesn't look like he's slept a wink in days. So tell me about these rogues, I request of him, all of us waiting for him to open his mouth and speak. They must be causing one hell of a problem for him to look this way. I'm annoyed as I haven't had a chance to put feelers out for Winter and Damien's mother yet. Besides, I fume to myself, how hard can it be to get rid of a bunch of rogues? Jonathan POV, they're here, they're finally here. Winter looks as lovely as always, although there's something that's slightly different about her. I can't quite put my finger on it. She looks radiant but fierce, stronger somehow. It's unsettling and awe-inspiring at the same time. Kai looks the same grumpy expression on his face, Langdon isn't much different, but Damien looks more confident, settled. Being Langdon's mate really seems to suit him. He's more laid back as well. Tell us about these rogues, Winter says quietly as we gather in the study. My mother, bless her heart, thankfully gone for the day, otherwise she'd be butting her head in and asking what everyone wanted to eat. There's not much to tell, I say with exasperation. We've always had the odd one, here or there to take care of, but there seems to be a pack of them now, just sitting and waiting. Anyone traveling this way is going to get attacked. Why haven't you just wiped them out, growls Kai, looking at me with a raised eyebrow. I was waiting for your assistance, I admit, and your guidance, I say pointedly at Kai, who has the decency to look semi-ashamed of himself. Winter glowers at him and he shuts up. I think it's fantastic that you've asked for help, Winter says enthusiastically. For a moment her eyes glow and I stare at her stupefied. Did her eyes just glow red? Or was it a trick of the light? No, Alpha likes asking for help, but there's been too many injuries on my side to ignore it, I say with a growl. My people are good fighters, but not against a whole pack of rogues. Do you know their location? Asks Kai. Where they have holed up for now. They haven't moved. They're a little south of here, away from the border, but with a clear view of the pack. They can see our incomings and outgoings. Not good, Kai mutters. He takes a deep breath. Tomorrow we'll hunt them down along with your best fighters. I have several of my own men still coming, he promises me. Thank you, I mutter, my hands clenched into fists. Winter is pensive. She's glancing out the window and frowning as I watch her, one hand under her head which is moved slightly to the side. She's staring in the direction of the rogues. These rogues, she mutters softly, looking over at me. They look rather thin and mangy, don't they? Like they haven't eaten in days or even weeks properly. Are they really attacking your pack? I flush. They're rogues. They don't need to be attacking to be eliminated. They're bad wolves who like to kill. It's better to kill them first. My voice rings out loudly. Winter looks at me disappointed, turning to the others as I flinch from the look on her face. I don't know, she mused. I don't believe we should kill, just for the sake of killing. If they're only hungry, why can't we just help them with food and water? She asked Kai, who looks taken aback. Is she insane? You don't just go up to a rogue and say, "Hey, do you want some food?" They'll attack you on sight. I wait for Kai to back me up, but he too is looking thoughtful. Kai, you can't honestly be thinking that she's right, I say, annoyed. You know what rogues are like. He exhales. I do, but Winter has me thinking that maybe not every single rogue is bad. She helped one long ago and in return he helped you, did he not? I scowl. That was a one-off, I mutter. It's not likely to happen again. We don't know that, Damien cuts in. Great, another soft-hearted shifter. Maybe I should have gone alone on this. It was infuriating listening to them give a damn about some pathetic, weak rogues. Just then a mind link comes in. Alpha Jonathan, the rogues are approaching towards our territory. They don't appear to be hostile yet. What would you have us do? Continue to patrol, and I want everyone prepared to fight if they get any closer. Is that clear? Understood, Alpha Jonathan. We will advise you if the situation changes. See that you do. I cut the mind link off and stare around the room incredulous. See, I accuse them, pointing and waving my arm in exasperation. The rogues are already coming closer to the boundary line. You can't tell me they aren't planning on attacking. Why else would they come so close? Food and water, shoots out Winter with a roll of her eyes. She glances at me and then scowls. Whoa! This is a totally different side to Winter than I've seen before. This one is more aggressive and loads more confident. I have to say, even if I don't like her attitude, I'm certainly admiring her for her convictions. Let's go check the situation out, Kai says pleasantly, putting his hands in his pockets. You better be prepared to shift, I warn grumpily. The last thing I need is a dead alpha on my conscience, because he was too stubborn for his own good. We'll be fine, Langdon says cordially as I begin to walk towards the doorway, feeling like a nervous wreck. These people are going to get me killed, I just know it. I stomp down the hallways and out to the grounds. None of them shift. I gape. Are they going to present themselves to the rogues as humans? Winter raises her head and places her hand across her eyes due to the glare. Which way do we go from here? She shouts. I point and then gape as she disappears. She's a complete blur. I've never seen a shifter move so fast. It's incredible. None of the others look worried at all. Aren't you worried she'll get attacked? I say urgently. I swear I hear Damien give a snort. They should be worried about her, he mutters under his breath. I still hear him though. Even Kai looks nonchalant about his mate going towards the rogues so fast. What on earth is going on? I begin to run, shifting into my wolf form, the others doing the same and trotting towards the direction of the rogues. When we get there, Winter is standing directly in front of them, her hands held out like she was surrendering. I am not a threat, she yells out, the wind distorting her words. I just want to speak to you. Please, if one of you could shift, we could talk. She's greeted with growling and snarls, but they don't attack. In fact, they look like they might be mind-linking each other. I didn't even think that rogues could mind-link. Damien and Kai's wolf come up behind her, Langdon behind them, all of them ready to attack at a moment's notice. I just watch in disbelief. I just wanted the rogues gone. Couldn't they understand that? This was foolishness. Stupidity at its best. Good intentions or not, they were going to get themselves killed, or at least Winter was. Not that she seemed to be aware of it. She continued to plead with the rogues. One rogue in particular pushes their way to the front of the group. Its eyes search us all, but its red eyes rests on Winter for some reason. It moves its head, its tongue lolling as it pants like a dog. Winter reaches over to touch it. Kai growls in warning, but it doesn't stop her as she touches the fur and strokes it, the rogue letting her. Strange, Winter whispers, this wolf seems very familiar to me. Like I've seen it before, but I don't know where. She sounds completely puzzled, staring at the wolf in fascination. It sits on its backside and views her quietly. Kai shifts back to human form. He looks sheepish. They don't appear to be attacking, he calls to me. I frown. That's what they want you to believe. I don't trust them for a single second. Then there's the sounds of bones cracking and adjusting, and one of the rogues shifts to their human form. He's thin, incredibly so, with long blonde hair that's matted, a long grizzly beard, and his eyes are red. His body is clearly malnourished. I feel sick just looking at him. He's been starving for a long time. Help us, the rogue says in a croaky voice. Please, we are all starving. We were never going to attack, we just wanted food and water, supplies, he says, his whole body trembling. He can't be older than 30, but he looks so much older. Time has not been kind to him. Are there any more of you? Asks Kai, drawing back his shoulders. The rogue gives a small nod. There are some more women and children back there. God, I feel. I shift and walk closer, standing beside Kai. I'm Alpha Jonathan, the alpha of this pack. If you all need food and water, you are welcome to come on my lands, I say, taking a chance as winter beams at me, but should you show any signs of violence, I trail off thoughtfully. I promise we won't, the man says hastily. And we can't thank you enough for the offer. I just grunt. We'll see. I still don't trust them, but even I'm not a complete fool. There's children starving, for heaven's sake. No one could ignore that. Well, no one with a conscience anyway. Winter is still staring at the wolf in front of her. Will you shift? She asks the wolf, and it seems to hesitate. Please, cajoles Winter. I wonder what her obsession with this wolf is. But to be fair, Damien is also eyeing it strangely. Maybe they both know it from somewhere. The wolf stands up and shakes itself all over. Then the sound of shifting can be heard, and suddenly, instead of the wolf, there is a woman standing in her place. Wow, is my first thought. Even though the woman is dangerously thin, she's still beautiful. She reminds me of Winter, with her long hair and skin tone. They could easily pass for family members. Heck, for all I know they are family members. The woman is silent, her head down at the ground. Winter is staring at her, her face pale. Look at me, Winter hisses, Damien moving to stand beside his sister, his own face ashen now and his body trembling all over. Kai seems to sense there's something wrong, standing protectively behind his mate. Langdon moves behind Damien, still in his wolf form, his jaws open at the ready. The woman is hesitant. Or afraid. Her hair is covering her face completely. She's clutching both hands together tightly and not uttering a single sound. Winter looks excited and dismayed at the same time, one hand to her lips. Are those tears in the corner of her eyes? Damien's jaw is locked tight and his eyes don't move away from the woman. The other rogue keeps looking back and forth, unsure of what is going on. Winter holds out a trembling hand, her sobs filling the air. My heart gives a pang. She sounds devastated. This rogue woman is completely affecting her. Kai grips her from behind and holds her as she begins to cry. Damien winces and gives his sister a sympathetic look. Will you please look at me? Winter sobs. I feel like I know who you are. So what is the point of hiding it? What good is that going to do? Damien can see you too. We both can. Why are you trying to hide? The woman slowly turns her head. Progress. Slowly her head begins to move backwards until she is staring back at Winter, her hair still around her face. Winter reaches out and smooths back the hair, revealing the woman's face to everyone, a trembling smile upon her lips. Hello, mother, she whispers and then faints dead away while the woman lets out a shocked cry. I could not have foreseen this coming in a million years. Winter and Damien's mother was a rogue who'd been on the run for a very long time from the looks of it. The question was why? Winter POV: I can't believe that my mother is a rogue. I don't know if it was the shock of that, or just finding her so easily that made me faint. When I come to, I see that I'm lying on the couch in the living room, Kai, thankfully dressed now, hovering over me with a concerned look in his eyes. Where is she? I gasp, struggling upright. Kai pushes me back down. Hold still, he says firmly. She's gone to clean up and will be down any minute. I don't need you fainting again. I glance over my shoulder to where Damien is standing, looking shell-shocked. Langdon is holding his hand and rubbing it, in an attempt to get him to calm down. Slowly, I sit upright, ignoring Kai's glaring. I want to see my mother. There are so many questions burning on my lips. Damien's as well, no doubt. She wanted to stay with you, but I insisted she get some food and clean up first, Kai says, fixing his eyes on me. She needed to eat, as did all of them. It was a good call of yours, Winter. These rogues meant no harm and you managed to avoid bloodshed. Not to mention found your mother at the same time. Strange coincidence, that he muttered darkly, and I just scowl at him. Coincidences happen all the time. Besides, the universe owed me a break, didn't it? After everything I've gone through? She better have a good reason for leaving us, Damien mutters from behind me, his tone dripping with resentment, or else I'm completely gone from here. I turn to look at him. I'm sure there was Damien. Who wants to live their lives as a rogue? Not to mention she was starving. Can't you just hold off your opinion of her until she tells us her story? I plead. He folds his arms across his chest and huffs. I'll give her a chance, he promises, but I'm not promising anything. That's all I want you to do, I whisper shakily. I have complete faith that my mother will tell us everything and that nothing she's had to do was her fault. Father chased her away, he had to have. Footsteps on the stairs make us all look towards it. Damien angrily. Myself eagerly. Kai sits beside me and holds my hand, but I barely feel it, my whole body suddenly going completely numb. My mother awkwardly steps into the lounge room. I stare at her in awe. She looks so much healthier already, after getting a meal inside of her and getting cleaned up. Her hair no longer looks like a rat's nest and her skin looks a lot smoother. Less dirty. She no longer resembles a rogue, except for the eyes which continue to glow red. A bit frightening and hard to look past, but I would try. She was still beautiful nonetheless and really did resemble me. It gave me a nice feeling to look at her. She wrings her hands together. May I sit down? She asks in a hoarse voice. Of course, I say, watching as she sits across from me, looking up at Damien and then quickly away. I told him to be nice. I glare at him and he raises an eyebrow at me. I'm sure you have all sorts of questions. She begins nervously. We do, I interrupt. Like what happened to you? Father told us you were killed in a rogue attack. She looks remorseful. You have to understand, she begins, when your father and I met, the mate bond linked us together. In the beginning he was charming, kind, fun to be with, and he was affectionate, she said bitterly. But then he started to change. It was only one drink at night time, then two, and then numerous drinks. I tried to stop him drinking so much, because he was an angry drunk, but he didn't seem to care. I leaned forward, intent on hearing the rest of the story. Back then, women were told to keep quiet and deal with it. I can't remember what set him off the first time. Whether it was dinner was late or I accidentally burnt some of it, but it made him so angry that he hit me. I gasped. I didn't remember any of this, but I'd been so young. She looks away. Then when you both came along, she said quietly, it went back to being good for a while. He really adored Damien, and when winter came along, he seemed to be really excited about having a daughter, she said with a small smile. He stopped drinking, worked real hard and spent time with all of us. For a while at least, everything was perfect. But it didn't stay that way, I guessed, seeing the sadness in her eyes and the lines across her face as she spoke. She gave a short bark of laughter. No, it didn't stay that way, she agreed. He started to go back to his old ways. The only difference was that he hit me in the privacy of our bedroom, because he didn't want you guys to see it. But it was getting worse, and there were times when I thought he was really going to kill me one day. There were times I could barely get myself off the floor and moving to take care of you both. Wasn't there someone you could have told? I asked, outraged. Some other family members or the alpha of the pack? A friend. Mother shakes her head. I no longer had any friends to contact. He had slowly stripped me away from everybody I had in my social circle. The alpha of the pack was his cousin, remember? So he wouldn't have done anything. As for family, I was an orphan when I met your father. It was one of the reasons I was so happy to discover my mate. I thought I would be getting the family I always wanted. So what happened? She sighs. I met someone. A second chance mate called Lexus, who wanted to save me and get me away from your father. He was determined to make sure I lived. But there was a catch. Lexus had been banished from his own pack for daring to be with me, a mother with 2 children. He was a rogue, she said gently, and I didn't care because he treated me far better than your father ever had. So you just took off with the rogue and left us, burst out Damien incredulously, glaring down at our mother, who flinched. What? We were too much of a burden for you and your new life, he kept going aggressively. You figured, hey, I don't want kids anymore, so I'll just leave them behind. Tears welled in her eyes. I would never, she choked out. I wanted to take you with me. Was going to, in fact, she said, sniffling, but the day I was having a picnic with Winter, rogues did come. We fought them off, but your father was so angry and incensed with me. He'd somehow found out about Lexus before I rejected him, and he used the attack to drag me off and beat me. He beat me so bad that I almost didn't make it, she whispered, looking haunted, and he left me for dead in the trees. I couldn't move. If there had been any rogues left, I would have been a goner. Your father was so much stronger than me, especially in wolf form. It was nothing for him to force me to shift and take his abuse. Running away didn't work either, she admitted. So how did you survive? I cut in, resting my arms on my legs and staring straight forward. Lexus came and found me. He'd known something was wrong and he'd come looking for me. He found me all bruised and bloodied in the forest and managed to hide me in a cave for a few days while I rested and recovered. Why didn't you come back? I asked. I was afraid, she whispered. He'd told me that he'd kill me if I tried to take you both from him. His cousin was the alpha. Lexus and I would never win in a fight with them. Plus, being with Lexus meant being a rogue, and there was every chance you would die with us if we were attacked or forced to defend ourselves. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I have thought of you both every day and wondered what you were doing. Whether you were still alive. I always remembered your birthdays. You were never far from my mind. You know he beat Winter too, cut in Damien angrily. You left your daughter to be beaten by him instead. How does that feel, mother? Knowing it's your fault. Damien, I protest weakly, but my mother's eyes widen in disbelief as she stares at me horrified. Oh God, Winter, he really did that to you? I had hoped he wouldn't touch you, prayed he wouldn't. I thought maybe it would be different because you were his children. As you can see, it wasn't, Damien said nastily. Damien, stop, I plead, please. It's not like mother's had it easy. She's had to travel as a rogue all this time, I argue. Cut her some slack. It's all right, Winter, mother says it's the least I deserve. He's not wrong. I can understand his anger. You both have a right to be angry. But I wasn't angry. I felt incredibly sad for her. She's been running all this time. Starving. Her mate for company but no one else. Missing her children. Never having enough to eat or drink. Never having a real home. She'd suffered. We all had. Was being angry at her going to make any of this better? Would it heal the wounds and the trauma? Or would being angry just cause more suffering, more pain? Damien, I say quietly, I get that you're angry, but you need to put yourself in her shoes. She had no choice but to run. If we'd become rogues, we might have died. Sure, our childhood sucked, but getting angry about it now doesn't make anything better. It just makes you feel even crappier. He sneers at me and I stare him down. Suddenly his body deflates and he looks miserable, rather than angry. Sad, rather than full of hatred. This was a shock to him too, I remind myself. He wasn't expecting this either and didn't know how to handle his emotions. Where is your mate? I ask mother quietly and she gives me a sad smile, tucking her hair behind her ears. I'm afraid that he died last year, she said, looking down at the floor. He was killed for going onto someone's territory by mistake. I couldn't get to him in time. I feel so much grief for her. How terrible to lose your mate like that. I'm sorry for your loss, I whisper, feeling choked up. Damien makes a small noise in the background. Thank you, she says politely. I miss him each and every day. I look over at Kai. He knows what I'm about to do and he agrees with me. I take a shaky breath and lean forward. Mother, I would like you to stay at my pack with me and Kai, I say eagerly. You'd have a home to go to and a place to sleep. Food, water, everything you could ever need. She looks at me bewildered. I didn't think either of you would want anything to do with me, she said, whispering. You thought wrong. Damien also lives at the same pack, I say, shooting a glance over my shoulder. My brother gives a tight nod. If you're sure, she says thickly. I get up and give her a hug, embracing her tightly. All of us have wounds to heal, some more than others, but this would be a step in the right direction. I only hope that Damien takes the step forward to and lets go of the past. Before it consumes him completely. Damien POV, God help me. I know I should feel sorry for my mother, but something inside of me is so angry and resentful that it's overwhelming all of my senses. I'm not like Winter. I can't just forgive and forget. Our mother is lying. She could have come back to get us at any time and we would have gone with her, no questions asked. Especially since it would have been infinitely better than living with our father. I shouldn't have stormed off. I gather my thoughts and walk back towards the living room, Winter and Mother embracing. I swallow hard. Did she tell you that she killed our miserable father? I spit out, Langdon sucking in a breath as I plunk back down on the chair. That he was trying to get to us after being locked in a dungeon? It must have been so nice to have been free of all this, I snarl, hooking up with your so-called mate Lexus. I trail off as I hear a strangled noise from the hallway. All of us turn and look. To see that Jonathan is standing there, looking extremely pale. I'm sorry to interrupt, he says quietly. I was just coming down to check on all of you. Did you say that your mate's name was Lexus? He asks, sounding like he's being strangled. I narrow my eyes. What is going on with him? Why does he sound so upset? It's not like his mother abandoned him, is it? Then I remember that his father left him to go hook up with another woman and never came back. God, I need to stop being such a poor. My mother looks at Jonathan timidly. That's right, my mate's name was Lexus, she says quietly, looking a bit uncertain. Is something wrong? What was his last name? Jonathan asks, looking on edge. Did he tell you? She moves her head and thinks for a moment. I believe it might have been Summer, she mused. We never really had much reason to remember our last names, she explained thickly. We just called each other by our first names. Jonathan was holding onto the doorframe now. His shoulders were shaking. There was a grim expression on his face. Winter was starting to look at him concerned. Jonathan, are you all right? She asked. What did he look like? Jonathan said abruptly to our mother. She gives a large exhale and then looks away for a moment. When I first met him, he had silky black hair that he kept tied back in a ponytail. His eyes were blue and bright and he was tall and muscled. He looked stern, but he was anything but. He was a sweet and kind man. He loved me fiercely, she continued, her eyes softening as she reminisced when he told me he couldn't go back to his pack because he'd been banished. I didn't hesitate to go with him anyway. I would have followed him to the ends of the earth. Winter looked at our mother admiringly. She sounded so girly when she spoke about him. Women and their romances. Even I felt a little touched. Jonathan looked sick. Oh God, he choked out, sounding like he was being strangled. Winter leapt up and patted him on the back. What's wrong, Jonathan? She exclaimed. You're behaving so weirdly. His eyes were pitch black. He raised his head and regarded Elena, our mother, steadily as she cringed at the expression on his face. I'm acting this way because Lexus was my father and he left my mother to be with you, he snapped, and all of us stared open-mouthed at him. My mother shook her head. No, Lexus didn't have any children, I checked. He told me he was single, I believed him. Were you actual mates, or chosen mates? Jonathan yelled. Chosen mates, she whispered. I wish we had been true mates, but I loved him just the same. Oh boy! Even I didn't see this one coming. Jonathan looks like he's about to explode. His hands are clenched into fists and his eyes have remained a pitch black. Oh my God, Winter whispers, her hand to her mouth as she looks at Elena, who is just as horrified. How could you have been so stupid? I cut in derisively. He lied to you. He abandoned his child, just like you abandoned your children and you never even realized it. I'm incredulous. Come on, he must have let something slip at some stage. Kai's eyeing everyone now, wondering when he's going to be needed to defuse the situation. Jonathan's like a bomb about to go off and explode, everyone subtly backing away from him and staring at him as he paces back and forth. I can't believe this, he growls. You're telling me that Lexus, my pathetic excuse of a father, is dead? He prods. Our mother looks at him apologetically, tears in her eyes. He died going onto some alpha's territory last year. But I'm not sure he was your father, she says gently. I roll my eyes. Of course she's still in denial. Doesn't want to admit to her mistakes, and trust me, this is a very big and very bad mistake. Jonathan comes in and sits on the couch. His eyes are cold as ice. Lexus was my father. You described him perfectly to a T, he growls furiously. I have no doubt in my mind that he is the one that died last year. He shacked up with you, he snapped. A gasp from the doorway has us all swiveling our heads to look at the person, now clutching the doorway for support, her whole body trembling. I win CE. Jonathan's mother has heard every word and right now she looks completely stunned. She's blinking back tears. What did you all just say? She whispers, sounding shaken. Her eyes rest on my mother's and narrow as she glares. Your father's shaked up with this, she screams, spittle flying everywhere. I flinch, Winter cringes, and Kai looks nervous. Like he's completely out of his depth. He just disappeared one night. Never told me anything. Just left. He left his little son behind, me behind, and for what? She sneers, her tone cold as ice, her arms folded across her chest. Mother looks uncomfortable but stays silent, shooting the woman remorseful looks. As thought that's going to accomplish anything. I didn't know, Mother begins. You should have known. You should have questioned, screams Jonathan's mother. You girl. You slut, she accuses, going off with someone else's man. You should have known better, she yells out. Jonathan leaps up and goes over to her, trying to calm her down. Good luck with that, I think to myself. It's like watching a car wreck. You know it's inevitable but you can't stop watching. Mother, please calm down, Jonathan begs. Elena couldn't have possibly known. Why are you so angry at her, when it's father you should be angry at? The woman gives a huff, glaring around the room, no longer the nice, hospitable host she had been when we first got there. You say your father is dead, she storms. This woman is the reason for it. She took your father away from you, Jonathan. Why aren't you angry? She screams. Jonathan's lips tighten. I am angry, he admits, but I can also see both sides to the story. It's not like she asked him to lie to her. If he was really like that, then weren't we better off without him anyway, he asks her firmly. He grabs hold of her hand. We did all right without him, didn't we? You raised me and I'm forever grateful to you for that. I love you, Mother, he says. I've got to give it to him, his voice is dropping with sincerity. I'm a little envious. I didn't have a relationship like that with my own mother or father. I wish things could have worked out differently for Winter and me. The other woman looks unconvinced. Please, I really didn't know, Mother says to her, her voice shaking, her face miserable. Sure you didn't, Jonathan's mother spits out. I will never forgive you for what you did. My son grew up without a father, because of you, she shouts and storms over to Elena. Before we can even move to stop her, Johann's mother raises her hand and slaps Mother across the face. There's nothing but stunned silence in the room. You will leave tomorrow morning and you will never come back. I don't want to clap eyes on you ever again, hear your voice speak ever again. Do you understand me? She challenges. My mother nods, a hand raised to her stinging cheek, a red palm now on her face from the slap. Yes, she whispers. Jonathan's mother just glares, then turns and storms from the room. Make sure they leave, she shouts to Jonathan, who looks at us embarrassed. I'm sorry about that, he apologizes, but Mother just waves the apology away. It's the least that I deserve, she says roughly. I must apologize. I never imagined that Lexus had another life he never told me about. Jonathan just shrugged. I've made my peace with it. Mother will come around eventually, but I think it best he hesitates if you leave tomorrow morning as she suggested. Mother nods. That's fine, we'll all leave tomorrow morning. You don't need us to hang around anymore anyway, Kai cuts in, glancing over at Jonathan meaningfully. Everything is under control, thanks to you guys, he answers. Hey, bet he didn't feel that way when we got here and pretty much took it over. Smooth, Jonathan, real smooth. Then it's settled, Kai answers smugly, glancing around and leaning back in the chair. We'll leave early tomorrow. But there's something I need to do. Something I wasn't even aware of until now. But every fiber in my being is begging me to do it. After all, there's nothing to be afraid of anymore, is there? Besides, there might be something that will bring back memories, something sentimental to give to Winter. God knows she's the sentimental one out of us both. Right now she's busy fussing over Mother. I clear my throat and look towards Langdon, who merely raises an eyebrow. I have somewhere I need to go first, I tell them honestly. It's about time I made the trip back to the house anyway. Winter lets out a startled gasp. Oh Damien, don't go back to that house, she says in dismay. It ought to be condemned. I laugh. It's not in that bad of a condition, but I never stepped foot in Father's room or the basement. There might be something we want to keep. It's worth going through at any rate. Winter bites her lip. I just think it's such an evil place, she says forlorn. What if you get hurt or something? Langdon clears his throat. I will be accompanying him, he tells Winter with a slow smile. I promise you that I won't let anything happen to him. Why does Mother look so nervous? I agree. You shouldn't go back there, she says huskily. Best to forget that place ever existed. I move my head at her. There's nothing you want brought back? I ask politely. Some memento perhaps? She adamantly shakes her head. There is nothing in that place I would ever want to set eyes on again, she spits out. Her tone drips with resentment. The whole place can burn down for all I care. It wouldn't make me cry, that's for sure. I get it, Kai said calmly, clapping me on the shoulder. When do you want to leave? I just look at him, same as you, tomorrow morning. It's not far from here. You, I'm assuming, will be heading for the castle. You bet your ass. We are. He glances at Elena. We'll drop you off on the way, he adds. She looks annoyed but gives a slow nod. I'm looking forward to tomorrow and revisiting the house. There's so much I never looked at, or wanted to look at now. But why is Mother so adamant about me going there, and wanting it to burn down? What is she so afraid of? Kai POV. Well, it was a complete joke. Never could I have imagined finding Winter's mother so quickly, let alone that she hooked up with Jonathan's dad. Jonathan was pissed and quite frankly I couldn't blame him. Winter can defend her mother all that she likes, even she has to admit that what Elena did was wrong. In so many ways. Now, I don't know what it is about Elena's mother, but I instantly dislike her. It could be her abandonment of her children, but I think it's the way she avoids my gaze and how she dodges questions she doesn't want to answer. Or the way she fidgets as she answers, looking uncertain like she's guessed it. My skin crawls being near her. But Winter seems to be unaffected by her mother, rising to her defense regardless of everything. My God, even Damien senses something's off. He's not a fool, even if I reckon he looks like one. How much longer until we reach the castle? Comes Winter's voice, snapping me out of my thoughts. I glance down at the clock on the car and give a sigh. Hours yet, I say, looking over the scenery. But wait until we get there, I say, excited. The castle is something special to look at. Plus King Axel is a really nice guy. Down to earth and kind. I haven't met his wife yet, so I can't really tell you about her. He's been kind of cooped up since his marriage, I comment, frowning. He used to like traveling to the different packs and meeting the alphas. Weird how marriage changes someone. Winter shoots me an icy look. Is that your way of saying you will not contemplate marriage? She asked with a hiss and I gulp. That's not what I meant, I protest quietly. There was no offense meant. She just grunts and sits back. Fantastic. Now I've managed to piss off my mate as well. It's going to be a very long trip. Nothing but silence from Winter, who's staring out the window as I drive. I watch the scenery pass by in a scowl. Why can't I just learn to keep my mouth shut sometimes? Seriously, dude. You mentioned marriage in a derogatory term and didn't think she was going to take offense? Are you really this stupid? Shut it, Kai. I wasn't meaning anything by it. She's a girl. Girls dream about being married. The white dress, the rings, the ceremony, the whole shebang, and now she thinks you don't want to marry her. Smooth, dude, real smooth. It's going to be your fault if she says no when you finally get the guts to propose to her. I don't know if I'm ready to ask her yet. She still has this hybrid problem to deal with and it never seems to be the right time. Hey, I don't care. Get with the program. I'll take over and ask her. She won't say no to me, I'm not the one she's pissed at. She can marry old Stormy any old time. Shut up, Storm. You're just jealous that our mate loves me more, admit it. Not my fault you're such a douchebag. Stupid mutt. He really knows how to push my buttons. I cast a sideways look at Winter. She's slumped against the window, blinking furiously. Had I made her cry? God, I clear my throat. Winter, I wasn't saying I would never get married, I say firmly, just that I wasn't thinking about it right now. She nods but says nothing. Sigh. Thankfully the gate looms up and several guards swarm the vehicle, pointing their guns at us. Winter looks nervous, but this was to be expected. I merely wind my window down and smile at the guards. Name and purpose of your visit, one says abruptly, frowning at me. I shrug. Can't make friends with everyone. My name is Alpha Kai, I say slowly, and I'm here to visit King Axel, an old friend of mine. His eyes go cloudy and I know that he's mind-linking the king. It's just a matter of time now. We sit patiently waiting. The guards never let their guns go down. I'm impressed. They are acting exactly like they should be, none of them letting their guards down at all. Nor have they moved a single inch. Winter looks at me in concern, but I just wink at her, to show her that everything is all right. I've done this numerous times before, just not with her. You said Alpha Chi, didn't you? The guard checks and I nod. His eyes go back to normal and he signals to his comrades to loosen their weapons. King Axel is expecting you in the throne room, he tells me. Do you know where it is? I give a grin. I know it, but shouldn't you guys be escorting me in? Now I'm confused. Has King Axel gone a bit soft on his proto-calories? I've never been inside the castle without several guards escorting me in. The guard shakes his head. King Axel says you don't need to be escorted and I take my orders from him, he says calmly. He motions towards the others. Fall out, he booms, and they begin to walk away. I shake my head in surprise and put the car into drive. Winter looks relieved and a bit more relaxed. We drive forward, up the long driveway and park in front of the massive grey castle as Winter's mouth falls open in awe. It's so beautiful, she gushes, hopping out of the car and turning around to see as much of it as she can. It's huge, she comments. I give her a wicked grin. Wait until you see the inside, then I point out it's just as gorgeous as the outside, maybe more so. We wander through the entrance, past the guards who wave us through, clearly expecting us. Communication is awesome between these guards. Winter's mouth falls open as we walk past artwork, intricate furniture, and royal-looking curtains. Wow, she utters. I laugh. We walk towards the throne room and stop at the doors, two guards standing at attention. I'm Alpha Chi and this is Winter, I say, introducing her. I believe King Axel is expecting us. Their eyes cloud over and then they nod, opening the doors and ushering us through. Winter thanks them quietly. The throne room is large and elegant, a red rug running all the way to the throne chairs. We walk down, King Axel on his chair, smiling widely at the both of us. I frown. He seems to have aged somewhat since I last saw him. His black hair now contained silver tips and his eyes had wide dark circles beneath them. His green eyes were dull rather than sparkling and his short beard was thick and rather messy instead of well-groomed like it normally was. He was dressed in black pants and white shirt, his normal uniform, and he waved with slightly trembling hands. It was like he'd aged 10 years or more since I'd last seen him less than 2 years ago. Welcome, King Axel declared jovially, standing up and rushing forward to shake my hand, his eyes lighting up. It's been a very long time, hasn't it, Alpha Chi? I can't remember the last time you came for a visit, he admonished. It's been too long, I agree, before turning to Winter, who is uncomfortably shifting her weight from one foot to another. This is my mate Winter, I said, and he gave her a kindly smile. Winter, what a beautiful name, for a beautiful woman, he complimented her. He keeps this up, I'm gonna knock him down to the ground. He's hitting on our woman. No, he's not, Storm. He's being polite. If we're not careful, she'll prefer him to us. We need to make a grand statement. Propose. No, she won't, you are being paranoid. Throw a ring at her. No. Stop. King Axel politely shook Winter's hand as she beamed up at him, completely charmed. I frown. Maybe Storm had a point. It's a pleasure to meet you, Winter says shyly. You must meet my wife, King Axel says with a chuckle. She's out for the moment but will be back for supper. She loves to meet my old friends. You haven't met her yet, have you? He says frowning, as though trying to remember. I shake my head. Actually, your wife is the reason that we are both here, I say politely. I have heard that she is a strong witch. One of the strongest in the country. Well, yes, she is, King Axel tells me proudly. No other can compare to her. But, tell me, why is it that you require a witch? I look over at Winter. My mate was turned into a hybrid against her will. Now she's half vampire, half witch. We were hoping that your wife would be able to take the vampire part out of her. King Axel looks at Winter sadly. You poor thing, he exclaims, to have that done to you. Is the person responsible dead? For I can send my men out right now to look for them. They are dead, Winter assures him, but thank you for the offer. Taking part of you out like that, King Axel murmurs thoughtfully. I'm not sure if it can be done. But if anyone can do it, my wife would be the one to come to. We must ask her at dinner. What is your wife's name? I ask out of curiosity. Her name is Vanessa. I met her. He trails off looking puzzled. Well, I'm not quite sure where I met her. I assume it must have been on one of my travels though, he said decidedly, and we decided to get married straight away. We both knew we wanted to be with each other forever, so it made sense, and we've been happy since. It's been just over a year, if I remember correctly. I'm a little puzzled. How do you not remember how you met someone? Especially when it was just over a year ago. I peer closer at my old friend. Is it possible that he's struggling with dementia? Can werewolves even get dementia? I've not heard of it happening to a shifter before. Congratulations on your marriage, Winter tells him sincerely. I'm sure it was beautiful. He frowns. Well, yes, it was. But it was a small one. We felt it better to elope rather than have the large traditional wedding. So much more intimate, he mutters, but I do wish my parents could have been there. I've not seen them since I met Vanessa. They refuse to have anything to do with me. He shakes his head and then sighs. Well, let's organize your accommodation and set up a time for supper. I can't wait for my wife to meet you. She'll be overjoyed, he babbled, leading them out of the throne room with large strides. She's always happy to meet my friends. So few visit me these days, he added with a frown. I suppose they are all busy with their own mates and wives. I must travel again one day, when Vanessa is up to coming with me. See how everyone is getting along. I stare at him. He sounds so strange. Not like himself at all. I knew he'd be changed slightly once he had a wife, but this was a significant change. He thrusts open the doors to a bedroom and motions us inside. This will be your room for the night. Let's do supper at 7 p.m. tonight, he says hurriedly, running a hand through his hair. I must go and do something. He tears out the door before I can say anything. Well, that was weird, comments Winter, frowning and looking out the door. You don't know the half of it, I mutter. I was curious to see this Vanessa at supper time and how she acted towards her husband. Something was off. I could sense it. Winter POV. King Axel seems to be a lovely man, albeit a bit strange. Almost like he struggles with his memory somewhat, and he appears to be far older than I had imagined a friend of Kai's being. It made me more than a little intrigued about this Queen Vanessa of his and what she was like. Would she be like King Axel or be the complete opposite? Kai waited patiently for me to finish getting dressed. I had taken care and dressed up more than I usually did, but still refused to wear a dress. Instead I'd opted for a dressy blouse and skirt, topped with my favorite leather jacket. My hair shone from the amount of brushing I'd given it, and I'd lightly applied some makeup. I looked beautiful, I saw with satisfaction as I gazed in the mirror looking at my reflection. We look good, girl. Ready for a night on the town? Or a dinner date with the king of werewolves? What do you think, Sabriel? I think our mate looks like he wants to take us to bed, and I'm tempted to let him. Dang, our man looks good. He does, doesn't he? Sigh. Not enough time for bedroom activities though. Winter, when will you learn? There is always enough time for bedroom activities, it just depends how much you're willing to make the other people wait for dinner. I'm not making a king wait for me, Sabriel. Figured. Shame. I'm feeling a tad neglected on the X front lately. Sabriel. Shush. You look beautiful, Kai murmurs in my ear, making me shiver with anticipation, as I turn and wind my arms around his neck. You don't look so bad yourself, I breathe, eyeing him suggestively. Sabriel, she'd made me horny. But I couldn't help it. His pants clung tightly to his legs and buttocks, and the white shirt he wore, slightly open, just made my mouth water as I spotted part of his chest. His scent tantalized my nostrils and I breathed it in, feeling dizzy myself. He had no clue what he was doing to me. Kai's eyes darted towards the bed. Maybe we can put that to good use later, he whispers, with a smirk on his handsome face. Maybe he does know how he's affecting me now. I stand up on wobbly legs and offer my arm to him with a smile. Shall we, I ask, and he grins, taking hold of me and clutching me tightly. He leads the way to King Axel's private dining room, and as we walk, I look around at the various paintings on the walls and the odd ornament here or there. A lot of it pertains to Greek mythology, a painting of Poseidon laying proudly in the center of one of the walls. He likes his art, I comment to Kai, who gives a nod. He's always loved art and he also has a keen interest in Greek mythology, he answers. So he combined the two when it came to decorating the castle. You have to see that he has a really good eye for paintings, he answers, whereas I have no clue when it comes to art. I just choose what I like, whether it actually goes with the decor of the pack house or not. We reach the dining room and walk in slowly. King Axel looks up from his seat and smiles. Welcome, welcome, he cries, gesturing at us both. Take a seat. Vanessa is just running a bit late, he laughs. Kai pulls a chair out from me and I sit across from King Axel with a wide smile on my face. I feel nervous. What on earth am I going to talk about? Kai slides in beside me. You look lovely, King Axel tells me with a raised eyebrow. Thank you, Your Highness, I say politely. Oh no, it's just Axel dear, he says, scandalized. I don't like being called king all the time. It gets rather annoying, he says in a whisper. I giggle. Kai chuckles and shakes his head, reaching for a glass of water and taking a sip. If it was me, I would insist on being called king all the time, he joked. That's because you have a big head, Kai Axel teases back. I hear the sound of loud footsteps coming and turn in my seat to find a woman approaching. She's beautiful. Ethereal looking. Her smooth, creamy porcelain skin was further enhanced by her bright red dress that clung tightly to her bodice and across her hips and bum. She had pale shimmery silver hair that cascaded over her shoulders and down to her buttocks in waves. She wore bright red heels. Her red lips curve into a smile as she greets her husband, who stands to attention. I frown and rub my eyes complexed. Something is wrong with my eyesight. I can't seem to bring Vanessa's face fully into focus, the outside edges seem to be blurry as though it's moving. I shake my head slightly. Sorry for being so late, Queen Vanessa apologizes as she kisses her husband on the cheek. I blink. For a second there, it looked like there was some pale green light where she'd kissed him, but just as quickly it was gone. There's no need to apologize, Kai tells her. His voice is husky. His eyes are staring at her intently, as though she's the only woman in the room. His mouth is slightly open in awe, and he's reaching his hand over to shake hers. I feel a flare of jealousy as she shakes Kai's hand, deliberately holding onto his hand for several long moments afterwards. I notice to my anger, that Kai doesn't yank his hand back and rather seems pleased by the attention. Sabriel, what's going on? I don't know. Did you and Kai have a fight or something? No, but at this rate we're going to be. It's like he doesn't even remember I'm sitting here. Slap him on the head. Tempting, but I can't do that in front of a royal couple. Kick his leg? Stomp on his foot? Kick him between the legs and force him to sit down? It's fine. It's just my imagination. If that's what you want to think. But I think there's something fishy going on. I can feel it in my bones. Then her eyes shift to me and her lips curl back. You must be Alpha Kai's mate, Winter, she says slowly. What a unique, she coughs slightly, name to have. It feels like a dig. Please sit down, Queen Vanessa orders, but we all stand until she's taken her seat. Then we sit down, Kai barely even glancing my way. Ouch, that stings. I resist the urge to stomp on the poor's foot and instead take a sip of water myself. It's so nice to have old friends of Axel's come out and visit, she says sweetly as her husband smiles and leans back in his chair, servers coming out and placing food on our plates. Most just make a phone call, she says blithely, instead of making the trip. She lifts her hand and drinks from her wine glass, Kai's eyes darting to it. I roll my eyes. Men, they were all the same. It's painful to acknowledge that Kai is like that, but the proof is right in front of my eyes. But isn't it lovely that Alpha Kai and his beautiful mate have come, King Axel says excitedly. His wife gives a smile and kisses him on the lips, Kai looking sulky in his chair. I blink. There. This time, I'm positive that I'm not imagining it. I saw a green light flare where their lips touched. But what does it mean? Why does Kai look like he's about to cry seeing it? King Axel is his friend, for heaven's sake. Plus, doesn't he care how he's making me feel? I grab a lettuce leaf and bite into it roughly. Queen Vanessa raises an eyebrow at me and delicately picks up her cutlery, smoothly cutting into her salad as I watched, placing it daintily into her mouth. You must be hungry, she trills, and I shrug. Kai reaches out and swipes some sauce away from the corner of her mouth. Thank you, she breathes, and my heart gives a painful leap. What is he playing at? So helpful, Vanessa continues, and Kai flushes, smiling wildly like a schoolboy. I glare at him and crunch loudly on my salad. Winter King Axel says, and I turn my head to look at the man, smiling despite myself. He's such a nice-mannered man, it's impossible to be angry at him, even if his wife is pissing me right off. Yes, King Axel, I answer. How long have you and Alpha Kai been together for now, he asks. I stop. It takes me a while to think. After all, I wasn't going to include being incarcerated in the dungeon by him or the times he pushed me away. A couple of months, I say finally, looking at Kai, who's still smiling like a loony at the Queen. Isn't that right, Kai? I say, raising my voice. Kai looks confused. Yeah, what you said, he finally mumbles, turning back to Queen Vanessa, who's preening at all the attention he's giving to her. How did you two meet? I finally snap, looking directly at her. She blinks her eyes, bewildered, King Axel looking bemused in his own chair. Well, it was on one of his trips to my pack, Queen Vanessa said, looking slightly worried. King Axel looked confused, biting his lip and looking away. She leant over and kissed her husband again, and the frown lines disappeared from his face, and once again he looked calm and relaxed in his seat. Well, anyway, dear, these lovely people had a very good reason for coming to see us, King Axel said, turning to her. Her eyes lit up with interest. Oh really, she said coyly. What would that reason be? Kai leans forward and grasps her hand. Beautiful lady, he breathes, my mate Winter was made into a hybrid against her will. We've heard that you are a powerful, and we're hoping that you might be able to help us to take away the vampire side of her so that she can be just a shifter again. Vanessa's eyes glinted. Her lips curled back as she looked at me, her eyes sweeping me over. A hybrid, she commented, that accounts for the nasty smell in the room, she hisses. Her face softens as she looks back over at Kai, whose eyes are pleading with her. I can help you, but it will need to be done under the light of the full moon, she says casually, which is in 3 days' time. It's when my powers are strongest and when your shifter side will be at its strongest as well, she says, barely glancing at me, Kai listening to her every word. You would do that for us? Kai says happily, and she reaches over and grips his chin, smiling at him. Of course I will do that for you, honey, she chirps. After all, I wouldn't want you to be unhappy if I can fix it, she whispers. I scowl at her. Kai beams and her husband looks aloof, as though he's not registering a single thing she's doing. How are these two mates, if she acts this way towards other men? I look at their necks and they are both marked. It's the oddest thing. I've never seen mated and marked mates act this way towards others ever, especially not towards another marked mate. Kai is completely and utterly transfixed by her. My anger rises and eventually I can't take it anymore. I stand up, pushing my chair back loudly. Please excuse me, I say quietly. It appears I've lost my appetite. No one says a word as I leave, and as I glance back over my shoulder, I see with sadness that Kai's not watching me walk away at all. Damien POV, how long's it been since you came back here? Asked Langdon with a frown on his face, as we pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The home stood there, a stark contrast to the others. I'd been expecting to see the grass grown long, sun-damaged, prickles everywhere, a sure sign of neglect and the fact that nobody currently lived there. Instead, I was pleasantly surprised to find that the grass was freshly mown, a lovely green color, and even the house itself looked like the outdoors had been painted. Then a moment of panic hit me. Had somebody moved into the house while I was gone? Would I knock on the door to find a stranger answering it? "Someone's living here," I comment to Langdon, pointing at the grass and the house itself. "They've maintained the grass and painted the outside. We can't just walk in there." I'm disappointed. I really wanted to be able to explore the house in detail, away from wandering eyes, and even, to my reluctance, away from my sister Winter. I wanted to spend this time with Langdon. Besides, there are no guarantees that I'll find anything of use here anyway. But I can't help remembering the pained look on my mother's face when I announced we were coming here, and the suspicion that she was harboring some sort of secret. "No one's living here," Langdon insists, getting out of the car and walking confidently up the driveway. "I had the lawns mowed and house painted. I wanted you to have some place to get away to, once in a while if you needed it. He did this for me?" I'm speechless for a moment, watching as he retrieves the key from its little hidey-hole rock by the door, opening it and ushering me in before him. I glance around the entryway, my eyes blinking to adjust to the light as Langdon turns on several to light the way. "Where do you want to start?" asks Langdon patiently. I think for a moment. I shudder at the thought of going into the basement. That room's getting left till last if I can help it. "Father's room," I muse. "Maybe there's something interesting in there." We make our way back to the far side of the house where his room lay, the only room downstairs. I kick aside empty beer cans and beer bottles, wrinkling my nose at the pungent smell of alcohol. Langdon's brows rise in disgust at the smell as well as I force open the bedroom door. I walk in and look around with dismay. There's bottles and cans, all empty, scattered on the floor, window ledge, top of his dresser, and even some against the wall in his bed. There's barely any free space on the floor, and I have to place my feet carefully as I walk inside. There's not many places to look. His dresser reveals nothing but clothes. His wardrobe the same, a few miserly photos of himself and mother. Nothing of import. The bathroom contains toiletries, very few of them, and under the bed is nothing but empty alcohol bottles. What a waste of time. I kick at the cans near me in anger. Just another reminder of how pathetic my father really was. If it wasn't for Winter, I have no doubts the whole house would have been covered in beer bottles and cans. "What about the attic?" suggests Langdon. "Don't people put important things up there?" He sounded uncertain. I laugh. "What, you don't have anything in the attic?" He shakes his head. "No, who can be bothered climbing up the stairs to place everything? Besides, all your stuff should be out on display, otherwise it's rubbish," he declares. I can't argue with that logic. It does make me wonder why we have attics in the first place. Still, he does have a good idea. I haven't stepped foot in that attic at all. It could be harboring all sorts of goodies just waiting to be discovered. "Let's check the attic," I agree with a smile. We slowly walk out, dragging bottles and cans with us, despite trying our best not to. I frown. I would have to come back here at a later stage and clean up, clear Father's room out. Make it into a habitable bedroom that was nice and airy, for visitors. Besides, I really wanted to erase every single part of him. Doing his room was a good start. "Where's the string?" commented Langdon as we wandered upstairs. His eyes were shooting everywhere, a look of fascination on his face. I wryly point to the string almost above us and he flushes. I keep my laughter to myself and reach out with one hand, pulling the string down and moving out of the way as the ladder slides smoothly down. The darkness upstairs beckons. I grin at Langdon. Want to go first? I ask politely. He snorts and shakes his head. Wouldn't dream of it, after you, he says with a grin. I just chuckle and begin to climb the ladder, hoping fervently that the light, when I reach out to pull on it, turns on. To my relief it does, and I automatically step aside to let Langdon come up, my eyes sweeping around the room in awe. There was so much stuff that it was impossible to know where to turn. Boxes piled up haphazardly, toys piled in a corner, even furniture sat there, covered in dust. How long had this stuff been sitting here? It was almost sad to see the toys piled lonely in the corner. Langdon's eyes narrow with curiosity and interest. This is much better, he says cheerfully, much more stuff to look through. More memories to unlock, he declared. I was moving towards the toys, my hands shaking. There was a bear in the corner, a bright blue one, with a white round stomach. I remembered him from my childhood. His name had been Layla and I'd carried him everywhere. Then one day he'd disappeared and I thought it was because I'd lost him. I'd been inconsolable, Mother doing her best as I cried my eyes out. What was he doing up here? I reached out and took him, feeling the softness of his fur and looking at his beady little eyes. Mother must have put the bear up here, but why? Had Father made her? I held the bear to my chest, swallowing tightly. I had loved this bear. It brought back nostalgia to be holding it close again. His name's Layla, I tell Langdon, handing the bear to him. He's coming home with us, I add, and watch my mate's eyes sharps with genuine interest as he nods. I exhale, coughing as dust rises up from the floor. My eyes water as I stare over at the multitude of boxes. I take one down and begin to dig through, handing Langdon another one. Most of it contains so much junk that I don't understand why they didn't just donate it or throw it out. Who needs spare cups, glasses, and plates? We had so many in the kitchen already that it wasn't funny. We didn't need Tupperware either. There were paperback books that I suspected were placed there with the intention of coming back down when the bookshelves were put up. Unfortunately, the bookshelves were currently sitting in pieces in the corner of the room. I also noted, rather drily, that there was also an entire box dedicated to wine glasses, beer glasses, and shot glasses. No need to wonder whose box that had been. I can't believe this. Where are the photo book thingy magigs? The actual memories of us all. I explode. Langdon grunts and rips open another box in front of me as I take a break. This one of them, he asks me, and I rush over and pluck the book out of his hand. I smile with delight. It's a scrapbook. I sit next to Langdon and open it up. This is a photo of me on my first day of kindergarten. I breathe out, recognizing the uniform on myself. You look cute, Langdon teases as I blush. I pull the page over. This time there's a photo of Winter as a toddler, chasing a butterfly around the garden. Her dress is flying in the air and there's a wide smile on her face. She looks so happy, Langdon says with a smile, tracing the photo with his finger like she doesn't have a care in the world. She was happy, I say with a lump in my throat. When she was that little, her laughter was infectious. She would spend ages running around, chasing me, playing with her toys. Nothing made her sad. She especially loved Mother, was stuck to her like glue. My voice is a little bitter towards the end. A wedding photo flops out. I pick it up and examine it. Mother's wearing a white dress, like all brides do, standing beside Father who's in a tuxedo. While he's beaming with happiness though, a massive smile on his douchebag face, Mother looks grim in comparison, a small tight smile on her face, as though she's anything but happy to be marrying this man. Had she realized what he was like? So why go through with the marriage? Why not call it off and run away? Father doesn't have his red eyes and puffy complexion in the photo, so he hadn't been drinking heavily that day or the day before. Not the nicest wedding photo, sighs Langdon, scrutinizing them both. Your mother looks angry. That's what I thought as well, I said, leaning into him. Do you think she knew what she was in for with him? Judging by the expression on her face, Langdon said calmly, hell yes. I carefully placed the wedding photo back and then flipped the page over. I traced the photo with a smile on my face. It's a photo of Winter and I, in costumes for Halloween. There's a massive bowl of candy next to us. Winter is a toddler in this photo too, but adorable in her little princess costume. I remember this, I tell Langdon quietly. We weren't allowed to go trick-or-treating, Mother was far too worried about us, but she let us hand out candy to the trick-or-treaters that came to our door. Winter and I would take turns opening the door and greeting them. We got to stay up later that night and we got to eat some of the candy that was left over by the trick-or-treaters. Father was home that day, but I don't remember what he did. He wasn't with us, that was for sure, I said, annoyed. Still, Winter would like looking at this photo, I decided, and carefully pressed it back in. Let's just take this scrapbook home to look at it, I suggest, grabbing hold of my bear from Langdon. Were there any others? I ask him. He shakes his head. Not in the box I was digging through. That was the only one. There are still several boxes that have yet to be opened though. Are you sure you want to go home now? We can come back another time, I say, assuring him it's late and I'm tired. I want to look at this scrapbook properly in the daylight. With you. If you're sure, Langdon agrees, getting to his feet and dusting himself off. He reaches for my hand with a smile. I reach out awkwardly to take it and look down to see a photo, slowly fluttering its way to the floor, face down. Just let me grab that, I tell Langdon hastily, opening the book and retrieving the photo. I flip the photo over and for a minute or two, what I'm seeing doesn't resonate with me. My whole body goes into shock. Langdon comes to stand beside me. His mouth falls open. This was what Mother didn't want me to find, this is what she didn't want me to see. One photograph that exposes all her lies. My whole body begins to shake in anger, my hand clenches tightly around the photo. I feel the urge to wrap my hands around her neck and strangle her to death. Calm down, Damien, we'll get to the truth, Langdon promises, his own voice filled with meaning. She better tell me the truth, I spit out, waving the photo, otherwise she dies, Langdon, I say, and I mean it, my eyes flashing black as I stare at my mate. For what she's done, she deserves to die. She's no better than my father. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.